All right, hello and howdy, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Team Next Level Quad Pod. I had to think there for a second. I'm joined by my co-hosts Marilyn and Rich, and for her third time on the show,
applause, please.
The try time, trifecta.
We have Yvonne Losino. Welcome.
Hello, everyone, my fans. Thank you for your support.
Yvonne, it's great to have you. James is a little under the weather, so we called in the reinforcements. And since we talked about you last episode, we thought that we would bring you in to get your side of the story. So,
see, I wasn't told that I was actually part of the conversation.
Yeah, your name came up.
Okay.
A little bit.
All right.
It actually might be what spurred on the conversation and kept it going. So last week at the end of the episode, we started talking about oysters. Or James started talking about oysters, right?
How did it come up?
I don't remember.
I literally was editing it 35 minutes ago, and I can't tell you. It's funny. As I'm editing it, I see all like the waveforms and stuff on the screen, and at the end, it's just everybody talking, and I'm like, wait a minute. I remember it being funny. I couldn't remember a damn thing that we talked about. Like I was like
oysters. Hey,
yeah, we were talking about it, but then I got to it.
You
I'm
started with like your
oh,
marine biology
yeah.
story.
No, that was after. That was like an addendum to the story.
Was it?
I think
from
it
his
had to
soup.
And somehow
Yes,
veganism.
It was from his soup. He was
Yvonne.
talking about how much iron his soup had, and we were saying no, red meat is better. And he's like,
Right.
And then it led to oysters.
Yeah.
And then it came up that you, Yvonne, a card-carrying vegan,
yes,
are suddenly.
I thought we decided it was vegan.
Well,
a
vegan. Yeah. Well, now we have to throw all kinds
I'm
of.
all
Yeah.
vegan. I don't know.
Yeah. So not a vegan.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
So you're eating
weird-
oysters now.
You know, it's not like I'm like chowing down oysters on a daily. The mollusk family was something I always was like, well, I don't know if I really care that much about oysters and clams.
I can understand that. That
yeah.
makes,
Yeah. I mean, he
So-
explained why.
Well, you know, when you go to the beach and there's just all those empty shells and it's like someone's eating them. Like they're just, come on, like you're not even
I
putting
think
up a
the
fight.
other things in the ocean, probably.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm not, I'm just saying that like if you're that easily eaten, like just raw, like, I don't know.
Oh, so
so
it's the food chain thing. How high up you are.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know what it is that just detached me from that. So
I hear oysters are a gateway drug. Gateway food.
It's a gateway mollusk.
Yeah, into other. I don't know what's
Who
next.
knows?
Shrimp.
Yeah.
What's
Next apex predators.
No,
are
no.
next.
You know, I feel like once you start adding eyes to the equation,
Right,
that's where you lose me.
Because they don't
Oh.
have like a living quality, sort
Yeah.
of.
No,
They're
they
a shell.
absolutely have a living.
I mean, I
No,
respect
they don't.
I
All right,
They're-
we're not-
But
They're
I
not
was
living-
told by
I don't
let the
one.
marine
No, I don't
biologist
wanna
tell
get-
us if it's a living
I was told by
organism or
one
not.
coach, Greg, that
Well,
there
that's
was
the
really
thing I wanted to
no-
talk about. I don't remember having this conversation.
You don't remember a lot of
Literally.
conversations.
I think we found the problem. We found
Yeah. So we tied up that loose end.
Yeah.
So where did this conversation happen?
So we were at
The wedding.
John's wedding,
Okay.
and this conversation just came up for whatever reason. I think because actually that
because
was
your husband was.
that
eating
was the day
them.
my husband just
Yes.
went completely off the rails and just had a cry fest over the calamari station. And
That's
so
awesome.
Another mollusk. So, but a mollusk with eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then we were talking about it, and I said, that's really the only thing that I wonder, like, if I was to eat something that I would have it, if, maybe that I thought about it. And then Greg said, because I said, but they do hold a place in the ecosystem and all of that kind of stuff. So, and I hear that they're smart. And he's like, no, they're not. And then he had this whole thing. He's like, they're done. No, geez, you can eat them. And then I actually didn't, that was in May of last year. I actually had mussels when we were away in Aruba.
Is it almost their anniversary?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's got to be close.
Yeah, I think it's the
Yeah.
14th or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Happy
Happy
anniversary,
anniversary.
Birds.
Yeah.
Clink,
Happy
clink,
anniversary.
clink.
Cheers.
Actually,
Cheers to John and Jackie.
that's why you may not remember the conversation because it was about an hour into cocktail hour.
Yeah.
Okay,
and they were
that's
making
possible.
those delicious old fashions.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Fair.
yeah, that was it. So I think since then I've had mussels like twice
A week.
yeah, a day for breakfast. And I had oysters with James actually not too long ago.
That
We
story
went out.
we heard.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they were delicious.
What's next?
Doubt it.
You're just going to have to
Doubt
listen
it.
to the
That's
podcast
Doubt
to hear
it.
my opinion of oysters.
Yeah,
I
think
don't
we
know.
need
I
to
feel
review
like you were
anything.
pretty like strong. Now I'm thinking you've swayed.
No.
Oh, no, I don't like oysters at all.
Well, no, not that you like them, but just like your feeling
No.
in regards
No.
to oysters. Okay.
No.
No, not at all.
Stay tuned.
They're like the sea pistachio.
Why?
Except pistachio, because they have a shell.
Because they have a
Oh.
shell and you eat the inside.
Okay.
But don't other nuts have shells?
All
too?
nuts have shells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not like those cute little clam shells or it just goes
Yeah.
like the
true.
other ones you have to really like work for it.
Sometimes a pistachio could be stubborn too.
Mhm.
But those I don't even
What
bother
about
with. I just
sunflower
toss them
seeds?
You just
aside.
throw them away.
Those you have to like with your teeth. Right? But like pistachios, they're so polite. They're almost open for
Should we
you.
move on?
Yeah, probably.
Just asking.
Probably
My
fine.
third and my last time on the quad pod.
No, you're always welcome.
We're
Yvonne.
gaining the
Thank you.
pistachio eater listeners and the
Mhm.
moms
Yeah, so now
fans.
when you talk to other vegans, do you have to like little caveat or
I generally don't we don't have a powwow,
No.
but this is why
There's not
I
like
personally don't like labels.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't like to be limited to anything because I never know what life is going to bring in front of me.
Sure.
By choice, I actually prefer, if anything, like more plant based. But that's if I'm ostracized from the vegan community because I ate oysters 3 times, like I didn't.
We're gonna
I
get
didn't
hate
join
mail
myself
now.
in there, yeah.
Yeah.
But I respect everyone who has their choices in whatever lifestyle and food choice they decide on. So, I'm not any representative of any.
I think
community.
next time we have her on, she's talking about steak. That's what I was thinking.
Nah.
I feel like that's a pretty
going-
far leap. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I mean,
Yeah.
I do. So my family,
Steak gets
they
eaten by
don't.
others.
They now eat meat, and I am the primary cook for the
Mhm.
family. So I do
Mhm.
make meat. So I mean, again, I try to respect everybody's choices, and I
Mhm.
just got to move on and live. So
Mhm.
do the best we can.
I gotcha.
That's it.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I don't remember having that discussion, but I mean, it's definitely sounds like something I
It was
would
like
say.
a literal round table conversation. That's
Yeah.
what was funny about it.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like something I'd get into. Yeah. I could kind of see myself I'm a marine
Like,
biologist.
insert myself in here.
That's when I learned he was a marine biologist when he said,
Yeah.
I use that term very loosely. I'm like George Costanza when it comes to marine biology. All right, so back to triathlon. We've come full circle now. So what I was thinking, the last couple episodes we've talked about a little bit about like how to deal with adversity a little bit in the mental episode 2 weeks ago. Last week we talked about how to kind of get away from technology and feel your way through workouts and stuff like that. And I think that this week we're going to talk a little bit about sort of how to how to modify things in a good way when it comes to your training, like probably more on like a workout to workout basis, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
when either you're not feeling it, or how do you adjust things? Do you completely scrap it? Do you take a rest day? Do you how do you preserve, like where is the point of diminishing returns? Like, can you dial it down by this much and still get the effect you wanted? Or are you, is it better to just do something else that day? And that's kind of, I think, where we're going to go with tonight's episode. So let's
we
start.
don't know where this episode's going to go. That's where we're
Not
going to
quite
start.
sure.
It's going to start here.
Screwdriver.
What?
Sorry, my mic's
You need a
falling.
screwdriver? Oh.
It's like, we're
I
drinking
was thinking
already.
you
We're
drink. I was
drinking
like,
whiskey.
just
Yeah.
ordering drinks over here.
So
See?
it's going to be
Side-
tough.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Derailed like
Yeah.
within seconds. We're going to talk about workouts. I
I
need a
was-
screwdriver.
I was thinking out loud.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to do, and we're not working. Yeah. So like, let's start with where, I mean, we've all done this, right? Where you have a workout planned, you have something you're thinking you're going to do that day. You start the run, you get out on the bike, you get in the pool, whatever. And it's just not happening, So what do you do at that point? Let's kind of go around.
I feel like that's like generally most workouts that I have.
Yeah.
To an extent. That I think for me last week, actually, Rich can attest, I was feeling under the weather, and it was one of those, like, I think at this point in the game, you have enough discipline to just make the motion to do what you know you have to do. And sometimes you more question the, I'm not feeling well, but am I not feeling well enough to not do the workout?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I've been for a while, where I will always plan to complete the workout, not default to a rest day and or modifying something. So case in point, last week, I wasn't feeling great, but it was one of those, like, maybe I just woke up a little funny. Let me go to the track, try to do the run, see how I feel. Did the workout, but it was, like, brutal. I just was, like, really sludging through it. And I was supposed to do a circuit after that. And I even attempted to do my circuit. And then I was like, wait, something's not right. Like, by this point, I would have already, like, kicked it in.
Yeah, I
and
feel better.
yeah, so something would have just shifted. And then I realized, like, yeah, I really need to rest. And I ended up taking the rest of that day off and the next day off. And then by the third day, I was feeling pretty good. But yeah, and Rich said after it, he's like, I shouldn't have done the run. But it's like one of those where I'm like, well, let me see if I can get through it.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, we're always kind of balancing that line when you don't feel great, whether it's you feel like there's an illness coming on, or you've got a little niggle, or you just don't have the energy to get through what you're supposed to get through. Like, you're playing that mental game with yourself. Like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I dial it back? Like, what do I do? And there's so many different options you can go with, so many different directions you can go. Like, what is the right thing to do?
Well, you started off already doing workouts, so you're consistent. And you're like the general you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're first starting out, no matter what distance you're doing, you want to build consistency. It's very easy to fall off the track and stop doing workouts because you just don't feel well. It's not happening that day, whatever. So in the beginning, I think it's important to build a consistency and do the workouts, not to the detriment of your health, but to make sure that you're staying consistent in your training. But once you are consistent and
Can I interrupt you? And let's talk about that for a second. Like, the last thing you just said is not to the detriment of your health. When is that line in the sand?
Yeah.
Like, where is that point for each of you? Like, what are you feeling? What are you listening to with your body to know? Like, because that's a serious thing. Like, I think people think that this, endurance training, the no pain, no gain, like that whole mentality, which is, I think we've tried to debunk that. And it's, I hate that idea.
Yep.
But, like, you have to work, right? You have to put in the effort, but, like, you don't want to do more damage than help. So
the one thing that I do is I ask myself if bagging it totally today will, and I have to know the answer to it, will make my recovery faster. Because if I can get through the workout, but, like, then I'm going to feel worse for the next week or whatever. Like, in my head, if I don't do the workout today and take a couple of days off or today off or whatever amount of time off, am I going to let my body heal and get back into it and feel good faster? And if the answer is yes, then I bag it, or don't do it to the 100% level. But if the answer is like, well, no, I'm just kind of feeling a little tired or under the weather, whatever it is, and whether I do the workout or not isn't really going to make me get better faster, then maybe I try to think about how much dial back in the workout do I need to do rather than just scrapping it altogether. I think, you guys tell me, when you guys get sick or feel not well, do you know that point where you're going to say, if I don't do the workout today, am I going to,
Oh, if I'm sick, I'm sick. I'm not doing it. But
you're getting better.
Usually my go-to is I'll give myself 20 minutes. If after 20 minutes I still feel terrible, then I'm done. But most of the time, even if like today, I told Greg it happened. I woke up and I really wasn't into doing it. Did that. I said, 20 minutes. If you still feel terrible, walk back home. And usually I feel fine after that much time. Like, moving sometimes helps you feel better. There have been times where I've been sick and I started and I'm like, nope, it's not going to happen, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you guys have hit on, all the important stuff. Like and I think what you talked about, Rich, with the idea of consistency and building consistency, like I've said it before on the podcast, like a beginner needs to just be consistent. They don't need to be introducing structured workouts, and it just needs to be like, get out there and move, bring your heart rate up a little bit, get used to moving as much as you can. And so that's just keep at that. It's when you start adding structure to your workouts and structure to your plan and start to periodize things and like have, okay, this is supposed to be this kind of workout. And, like I had VO2 max intervals on the bike this morning, and it's like, okay, so I've got that planned. If I get on the bike and I don't feel good, like what's the move? What's, do I just make it an endurance day, or can I dial it back and still feel good? Like when do you lose the, what's the word for like the spirit?
Intensity.
Or what's the spirit of the workout? Like what's, because there comes a point where you can be like, okay, I'm going to dial it back. But if I'm supposed to be doing VO2 work and I'm dialing it back to tempo to feel good, well, then what the hell am I doing?
Are you getting the benefit out of it?
No.
Right.
Because what am I doing? I'm building fatigue. I'm doing, 4-minute intervals. So if I dial it back to tempo at 4 minutes, I'm not getting anything out of it. I'd be better off either taking it completely off or bringing it, just endurance, nice and easy, get an hour and a half in, whatever it was, and live to fight another day.
Because that's the point I was thinking about, is just volume, right? Forget tempo work or anything like that. At a certain point, as you get to the longer distances that most of us are doing, then you kind of say, okay, can I just put in the volume? It doesn't have to be the workout to advance something or to get better at something or to put in, VO2 workouts, but get the volume in.
Yeah, but like if you, I have a hard time, like I have to work out in the morning, but it's really tough to like get up and push yourself in the morning. That was the mental battle I was having this morning. It's like, I knew it was on the schedule, and it's like, this is going to hurt. This is going to suck. I'm barely awake. And like, am I ready to go?
Stop looking at the schedule.
And that's actually, and what you just said is something we all do it. I do it. And you just said it, is don't automatically look at the workout and say, this is going to be terrible. Because you're already going into it with this notion that it's going to be terrible, and it may not be. But once your brain already thinks that, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah. The worst is when I think it's going to be easy, and I'm
and
like,
then it's not. Yeah,
this is so much harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely, don't go into it like that, because that's just.
Yeah,
that's the best part of a coach, because I rarely look at it. Every time I go to the track, Rich is like, what do you have? I'm like, I don't know. Like my watch goes, I'm like, okay, I guess we got to run hard. Like, so I really just don't know until I go into it. And sometimes it just helps because I just know at that moment what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's hard for me.
It's gonna feel how it's gonna feel. So if you just go into it like, let's see what I have today.
Yeah.
Instead of.
I'm struggling with it because what the latest thing we're saying is, because I don't know if I'm just like, I do this stuff as like part of a lifestyle. So like, I know everybody here is like, I've got the workouts, they're on the calendar, they're kind of planned, but I'm not going entirely by feel. I'm not on the opposite spectrum of it, but I don't necessarily have specific, I gotta hit every workout this week goal. Like I kind of general know the idea. And I plan workouts and I have them and I know where they're headed and what they're supposed to do. But like, I don't necessarily feel like every morning, like this workout's going to suck. Like,
I don't know if I should say this workout's going to suck.
It's just working out.
It's like, if I had to get up and I had like an hour to sit around and have a coffee, and then like slowly bring myself out of a slumber and like get to that point where I'm like, okay, now it's time to start exerting yourself and like slowly ease into it. But for me, it's like, okay, the alarm goes the alarm goes off at 4:30. Like I hit snooze once or twice. And then it's like, okay, in like 20 minutes, I'm going to have, my heart rate's going to be through the roof. And it's like, that's a really hard thing to go from like
sleeping like 5 minutes ago.
So nicely.
Everything was going well. And
you wake up like it's a war zone. Like it's just like beep, beep. Okay, get my clothes on.
Right.
Now all of a sudden I'm on the bike and I'm pedaling. And you're just like, what's happening?
That's exactly it. And I'm like, oh, and I'm going to have to pedal hard. I can't even pedal easy. And it's like, man, it's it's a hard thing to do.
It is hard.
But,
But that's where consistency helps so much, because
Yes.
then
Yeah.
it just becomes something that you do without even thinking about it almost.
Yeah,
I mean, you do think about it, but
The thing that came to my mind too is the benefits of working out and living a healthy lifestyle, and then also, you know, the training and stuff, is that you become so in tune with yourself. And when they say, how
Yeah.
do you know? It's like you just know.
Mhm.
You know when you're just like, you're being lazy.
Mhm.
Let's
Yes.
go.
Mhm.
Let's get it done. And you know when you're like, something's off. I
Right.
know
Yeah.
something's off.
Mhm.
It's more than just the usual, you know, I don't want to do it.
Mhm.
And that's like what's really great about being this far in the game, because you probably know yourself better
Mhm.
than most people do.
Mhm.
Like there's so many people that live life just sedentary and not feeling right and not like making the connections of like what's not right in their body. So to be on this side of it, I love it. And people ask me all the time, and it's like, I just, this is part of my life. I know, you know, so.
That's a great point.
yeah.
Yeah, you definitely become more in
Yeah,
tune.
that's why. Yeah, that's kind of the point that I was making before. You're in tuned
I made it
into it.
better.
Yeah.
You're
You
tuned
use
into
more
it.
words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can-
you know the difference between soreness and pain and, you know, fatigue and just, you know, taking a little bit longer to get the crusties out, you know, so.
Mhm.
So let's talk real quick. Two things have popped up that I think are worth chatting about. Illness. Where do you guys fall? Like, what do you do? What do you do when you're sick? And do you like? How do you
take
know?
medicine.
Yeah. How do you know you're like? How do you know that I'm tired or I'm getting sick? Like, is that just being in tune with things?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
You
for sure.
you and it's not just in tune from the sport. I think you just grew up. You know, like
When you're sick,
when
like,
you're
what you
sick,
feel
like I don't typically strike a fever, but I know when I'm sick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
know-
when do you adjust your workouts?
Last week, my heart rate was staying really high. It just wasn't coming down. And, you know, it just, with all of the variables that added up, I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling well. So it was between just feeling super fatigued, like not just tired, like
Mhm.
heavy.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just, again, like not getting anything moving, just, and then that was it. I was wiped out, pretty much slept for 2 days, and it wasn't anything crazy. I don't know if it was like a viral thing, but just really slept. But then by the third day I woke up and I was like, I jumped on the bike and I said, okay, this is me better,
Mhm.
you know?
So the other point I think we can make for the people that live this lifestyle is sometimes you talk to your coach or you know in your plan what your key workouts are. So
Yeah.
you know what you can sort of bag,
Mhm.
if I can
Yeah.
kind of say,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like if your VO2s are your key workout, you know, you can hit it another day. And like if you need to do an easy,
Mhm.
you know, whatever, jog 40 minutes, whatever, I don't know.
Sure.
Then maybe you could do that for 20 and be like, see if I could do another 20 or
Mhm.
bag it. Yeah. So that's also important because I think most coaches will tell their athletes, these are your key workouts for the week. And what's easy is these are the
Right.
ones that you're just going to try to do easy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
I feel the pool is always, I get frustrated because if I'm not feeling well, it's just the pool's always the
Mhm.
first to go and the hardest one to get back into. You just don't want to go in a pool not feeling well. And if you have a respiratory thing, you definitely don't want to mess around with that. If it's any type of like stomach bug, you don't want to
Definitely
subject
don't wanna
anyone
mess
to
with that.
Definitely not that.
So, you know, that's always like what kind of gets pulled out of my week. And then I'm just like, oh,
See, now I will say that if I had to pick, like, I think swimming, like with respiratory, like if it's some kind of cold, like congestion and stuff, the pool helps clear
Helps
it out.
clear that up.
Really?
I was
That's
gonna
what
say
you
I'm
guys
the
told me
opposite.
once.
I'm
Yeah,
in
they
the
said,
pool.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were like,
I bag the
swim in a-
runs.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
I could spin if I need to go whatever easy and just do stuff and get in the pool to clean move
Yeah.
everything.
I don't know where I read it.
Run.
I think it was like maybe it was a cyclist, the triathlete training Bible or something like that. And it was basically like if your cold is above the
Up
neck
ahead.
or in the head, it's pretty much fine to exercise.
Mhm.
Not intense, but like, you know, you can do zone 2 stuff. if it's below the neck in your lungs, like you might need to take the days off. And I've kind of always used that as my sort of barometer. But yeah, getting in the pool, especially if it's like a head cold, I don't know if it's because like, I don't know, you're horizontal, you're exhaling a lot. It's water's getting up there and kind of flushing stuff out or whatever. Like it all comes out and I feel better usually afterwards.
Really? I should try it
next time.
Just
Can you just let me know when you're doing that so I don't go in the same pool?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what chlorine's for.
That's what chlorine's for.
Yeah.
But just also the distinction, we're only talking about like when you're sick, not injured, because it's
I wanted to talk about sick and then injured. So we're
talking about sick.
Yeah.
I mean, sick is sick. I kind of think that it's better to get healthy rather than be sick longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can sit on the bike, spin, after 20 minutes, you can do more, do it. If you could get in the pool or whatever, run. I don't know what people love to do.
Yeah.
But
I would say
taking care of your health is like number one.
Right. But I think moving, getting the blood flowing, like if you can do that, even if it's just a walk, like is probably a good thing. Yeah. Unless you're that, like if that makes you more exhausted. But more times than not, when I'm in that, like maybe I'm getting something and I just go for an easy ride or a swim or something like that, I usually feel better.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to not just be like, oh, I'm sick, shut everything down for a week, you know?
And I'll also add that at this point, again, being athletes and doing this stuff, or we call ourselves athletes, you know the little things to adjust. If you have a 10-second rest and you make it a 30-second rest, does that mean you should bag your workout? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you have a 30-second walk and a 10-minute run and you make it a 2-minute walk and an 8-minute run, like did you really bag your workout?
And that's what I was kind of,
you know what to like adjust a little bit in every little thing that you do. If you're, pushing 10 minutes of, 2,000 watts and you go 90% of that or 80% of that, does that mean you didn't do the workout? I don't think so. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's important. That's what I was talking about, like the spirit of the workout. Like what was the original goal? Like how much is okay to take off and still be getting what you're supposed to get? And like you said, if you're out for an endurance run and you change your run walk schedule or you dial your pace down 1 or 2 minutes a mile, like you're perfectly fine. You're still getting pretty much the same stimulus as you would have if you were that little bit faster, you ran a little bit more or walked a little bit less. Like that's perfectly fine. But if you're supposed to be doing threshold work and you are doing it at endurance pace, like, and that's as best as you can do, maybe you are better that day just taking it off and not doing it,
I also had this thought, and I don't know if I've just been doing it too long, but everybody, like when they get new sneakers, they feel really good and they go run. Sometimes even for my own mental health, I'll just pull that workout back just to I'm like, okay, now I feel better and I could do it. And then I'm excited about it again, just even if I'm not feeling well, but it gets me motivated for the rest of the workouts that week.
Wait, so you
I lost the new sneakers. What is it? I lost the sneaker part.
Like whatever people do to like motivate themselves or make them happy, like to go run or
so you like
you buy
hold
new
it from
sneakers?
you so that
so
when
like
you
I just pull back the workout that day. I'm like, I'll do 80%.
I get what he's
today.
saying.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I still don't know where the
I
sneakers.
still don't see where the sneakers fit in.
Where did
Some people, when they get new sneakers, they're motivated to go running.
Oh,
or when
yeah.
they get new goggles, they're motivated to go.
Your
go
motivation is
swim.
to hold back the
My
workout.
motivation is like I'm pull back the workout. Like
And then next time you're motivated to do it.
Motivated again.
Oh.
I
was like, shit, he's got a ton of sneakers, this guy.
Like,
No.
What's happening here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I got what you meant, Rich.
Yeah.
It must be on that side of the table.
Yeah.
I heard
come
it.
across.
It came here faster than it got
That's
to you
fair.
guys.
Landed here first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think though, because this is kind of where I'm at too. The closer you are to
I was
an
going to ask
event,
that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
we're like the same.
Yeah,
brain.
samesies.
Yeah. So it's like now my biggest race is in October. So I'm like, if
More
I'm really
willing
leaning,
to-
I'm like, it's not going to kill me now.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah. For sure.
absolutely. I get way more nervous for me and the
Mhm.
athletes I work with the closer we get. Like,
Yeah.
You could ask all my athletes. I'm probably texting them more now when we're 4 or 5 weeks out than when we were 8, 10, 12 weeks out because I get nervous about stuff. Like,
Yeah. So if someone gets sick now compared to,
Sure.
a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Would you encourage them? Like, how would you handle that? Because I mean, that's
yeah.
a big thing.
I think it depends on illness versus injury.
Mhm.
But I think I'd go with what Rich said. I want to get better as fast as possible
Mhm.
so that we can get back to close to normal sooner. So I think I'd be less likely to be like, yeah, it's okay to do that workout. Like now it's like, if somebody was like, James,
We have
hey,
someone, yeah.
I'm not feeling great. I'm like, okay, cool. You're not doing your CSS test tomorrow. We're going to take an extra day if we need it. Like, let's get better because I don't want to stretch this out. Because if you're going to get sick, then let's get sick and get it over with. And so we can get back to training. Where, 3 months ago, it might have been a different discussion. It might have been like, well, how are you feeling? Wake up in the morning, see how you feel. Maybe go to the pool, do a little bit. And because if you get sick, then it's not a huge, like we can come back from that. No problem, But,
yeah, absolutely.
So I think it definitely depends on where you're at. And I think I try and take the more cautious, like cut some workouts. Most of the work has already been done. We're like, what are we, 4 weeks out from Eagle Man, Rich? 5?
So crazy.
Yeah. So
crazy.
we're exactly 1 month out.
Yeah, you guys are
yeah. So I think now it's like, if something happens, you need to react to it strongly. Where 4 months ago, it was a different story. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And dial back my workouts to get excited again.
Or buy new
sneakers.
Buy new
sneakers.
sneakers. I'm going to go buy some shoes.
Where are we talking about sneakers this weekend?
Goggles.
My goggles are in the mail.
Did you use your Magic 5 code?
No, because I had already ordered them.
Oh.
It takes like
that
a
always happens to you. Like
it
we
takes like
sit
a
here-
month to get them. By the time
Really?
not a month, but I ordered them maybe like almost 2 weeks ago.
I think the same thing.
And I'm
weird,
getting them
weird
next week.
eyes. They got to like custom
I guess
ship them in from somewhere. Oh, that's weird.
I have a
Did
bone
that
to pick
happen
with them.
Power Bar too?
Oh, don't
Like,
do it
you
on
were
the
like, I already
podcast.
ordered mine, and then we got the
Yeah,
code.
maybe.
That's,
Lucky me.
What
You
about
think it's
your-
funny?
No, it's not funny. You're right. Sorry, my bad.
Sorry.
Imagine
Well, I
you
guess
got like the magic goggles and one was like super small and one was really
Oh
big.
my
And you
God.
realize it's like a
that
eye.
scan. This time it took a long time to get that scan.
I had to do
I was
mine a couple
about to be like,
times.
I'm just ordering Speedo goggles and
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah, I had to do
Yeah.
mine a couple of times when I first got it, and they submitted it, and then they rejected it, and I had to do it
And they're
again.
like, no way you really look like this.
It's not really your face.
We're talking about the Magic 5 goggles in case.
It's like my
anyone's-
one side just like got tired, didn't catch up with my other side. They're like, that's not right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't used Magic 5 goggles, so
I've used them. It was fairly easy to scan and order.
you're very
course,
symmetrical.
it's gotta be
Yeah, of course,
contrary.
he's
I
perfect.
know.
You're perfect, Rich.
Like
But-
Mary Poppins.
Oh, there's the
But-
other side.
There's the other side. They didn't work like as great. They
What
They
did
were
what
like
what
regular.
issue did you have with them? Just curious.
they leak.
Really?
They were great in terms of anti-fog for a long time. I
Yeah, they
like
last a
that.
long time. Maybe you got to tighten them a little.
So that's what ended up happening.
Mhm.
But they tell you it's just supposed to sit on your face. But it
Yeah.
ended up being just like a regular pair of goggles, which you had to tighten, and
Yeah.
then it was
Mm.
fine.
Yeah.
Maybe
Mine
you
are
need a
just
new scan. Maybe your scan didn't
Maybe.
go as
Yeah.
well as you
Smooth
say
as
it
you
did.
thought, yeah.
You know?
But and the goggles were, decent, nice.
We love you, Magic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks, Magic 5.
Yeah.
All right, so that's illness. What about injury?
I
Hmm.
struggle with that one a lot.
That's yeah.
Such a
But-
hard one.
The easiest thing that I will say, the easiest thing to do is if you have a specialist you're working with, go see them and have them
Yeah,
tell
for
you.
sure.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing. Like even with being
Right
sick, if you can
away.
go to and have the doctor tell you that you're not sick, then do that. But like
Yeah.
with injury, if you're working with someone, they could tell you, no, you're okay. A story with me was we were doing the long rides for the Rampo rally,
Oh, your
and my shoulder, right?
Mhm.
And I got it checked out, and and they said, just do these stretches, do these, do this, take it easy here, and then it's like, great, I'm gonna get back next week and keep doing the rides. And that was
Mhm.
awesome. And I don't know if I had been able to make that decision without having a specialist tell me that.
Yeah.
I
'Cause it
had,
really
yeah,
hurt.
I had the same thing, and I thought it was from swimming, and I was like, "Oh my god, my rotator
Right.
cuff!" Because you hear all these stories, and same. I came in to next level,
Thanks.
and
Next Level.
right away they were like, "No, you could keep swimming. Just you have to do this, that."
Yeah.
So,
That I think if you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's anytime I've had an athlete get injured during their build, I would like pass them off to the physio and say, like, they're now making the decisions for what you
Mhm.
can and can't do. It's not my job anymore. Like when they say it's okay to do it, then will start doing whatever they tell you to do. Because, especially with like an overuse injury or something like that, if you keep trying to like muscle through it, you're just going to cause long-term damage. It's going to take a long, long time to fix.
Yeah. And I've said that here before, where it's like, I'll try and fix it on my own or ignore it, and it doesn't go well.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to share your story from
I think
Muscle?
I have before. Oh,
Yeah.
Muscle Man?
Well,
Yeah.
the lead into Muscle Man, or no?
I started having plantar fasciitis pain like maybe like 3 months before Muscle Man, 2-3 months, and ignored it, kept running, did the race. Like by the time I did the race, after running, I like was limping. It hurt so bad. Until I got to a point I just couldn't even walk after I ran.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so bad. And then I was like, next level, John. No problem. Yeah. And it probably wouldn't have kept me from doing the race had I come in right when it started and
treated early.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people who are like, if they do their regular whatever stretching or whatever rolling, and they're like, no, I'll stretch extra and I'll roll. And it always, I'm like, and they never get better. They always get worse because they like put extra pressure on that stretch and then extra pressure on whatever they use to get better. I'm like, did it help? No, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it looked at right away.
Yeah, absolutely. We
I mean,
do free
you can,
consultations.
I mean, other than major injury, which is obvious, you can wait and see for like a day and see if it was like, you're feeling better. Sometimes I'll feel a twinge in my knee from a run. It's like, oh, that hurt. But in a day or two, that's
right.
It was just kind of like something weird. I don't know, a step or whatever.
Right. It's just some weird thing that happens when you're
age.
right. When you're in your 40s,
sometimes
stuff hurts sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
So why do you think people wait or decide to do it by themselves, or, just like for you, like what?
For me, it was just because I didn't want to stop training.
Yeah.
Like, cuckoo. Yeah, that was it. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to be told like, no, you can't do the race. And so I was like, I'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why definitely it's important to find a place that supports you as an athlete and doesn't want you to just stop, that you can make modifications and continue training, that you will be told that, and that you can trust that it's just you're going to get the information that you need. That's definitely something I've learned. Yeah,
because unfortunately there are places that'll tell you to shut it all down, and sometimes it's not really necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I'm sure all providers would be like, oh, stop doing this. But, when you find a place that supports athletes, I mean, you see these pro athletes, they go through these things and they're not always told to stop. They, have a team that supports them and gets them through it. And it may be different decisions that you make than an off season. You might say, okay, it's enough to get through these races that I have planned this year. And then I can focus on, really taking a step back. But just get a team that you trust.
Yeah, and not just to fix the issue, but tell you, sometimes they can tell you how it occurred or why it occurred and fix the problems that led to whatever injury you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just remembered a story where many years ago when I didn't know what I had, my knee was hurting and I couldn't run. And I went and got MRIs, and then I lived in the city, Manhattan, and I went to the doctor who was a specialist in the area. He ended up being like the doctor for the Knicks. And his first like answer to me was, yeah, stop running. That's it. You're done. Like your knees, you shouldn't run. And the truth is I found that to be an interesting answer, and I went to get a second opinion and stuff like that. What it ended up being was IT band syndrome, and like that needed to be dealt with.
Yeah,
I didn't know, like, so now I know, but back then I was like, it hurt so much, and then I stop and it doesn't hurt anymore. Like so much, and he's like, yeah, your knee, no, don't run. But I was glad I got a second opinion who was like, yeah, I think you can just work this out.
Greg, if I'm not mistaken, you actually didn't run for a while?
Yeah, I took a long break.
So like, how did you decide, like, because did you stop, like take yourself out of a race or something at some point?
Yeah, so 2019, I started to get a lot more serious about the sport. And at the end of 2019, I think I signed up for AC in 2020. And so I started to, it's okay. Rich is making noise with, what Rich, we didn't mention this.
Yeah, it should be on the table.
It should be on the table. This is Macallan 18?
This is Glenmorangie.
Oh, okay.
Glenmorangie
18. So this is a phenomenal bottle of
It's
scotch.
so good.
Yeah.
We're working through it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll see how far we can get.
Yvonne got a
That
nice
sounds like
big
a
pour.
That was a good pour. Yeah. So what I started to do was bump up my volume significantly, especially on the run. I've never been a runner. And I was like, that's where the lowest hanging fruit is. I just need to run more. Got injured, like stopped for a little bit and then started. And the same problem just kept coming back over and over and over again. COVID, I don't know. I don't know if COVID was a good thing or a bad thing for it because all the races were canceled, but then I had a lot more time on my hands. I'm like, well, now I should be able to get in great shape. And I did get in good shape in the bike. Once we got swimming again, the swim came back real good, but like I kept having this nagging, and it was IT band syndrome. It just would flare up, and it's a combination of form, overstriding a little bit, having like a crossover gait, and weak glute med. And I didn't know that at the time, and I just kept trying to fix it. I'd come in here for therapy and would feel better while I wasn't running. And it got to a point where I just got so frustrated with it. And the idea that like, I'm going to work towards these goals and I'm going to be, stopped because of injury just drove me to be like, okay, I need to just step away from running. I transferred all my races over to Aquabike. I was signed up for AC the year you guys all did it, and they didn't have the Aquabike that year. So I wasn't able to do that, which was fine. But then I said, let's just take as soon as I found out AC, I couldn't do AC. I was like, okay, let's just shut it down for 5 or 6 months and get it fixed, strengthen what I need to strengthen, work on form and stuff like that. And, knock on wood, it's been good since. I haven't really had any kind of issues with it. So I did need to take like a prolonged break, let it completely heal, and work on the things that needed to be worked on so that it would fix itself. So that's kind of where I was at with that. And, hopefully it won't come back. But every run I go on, I'm waiting for that foot to drop and be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
But,
that's what happens when you've been injured. I feel like that all the time because I've had so many, my hamstring, my calves, like plantar fasciitis. So I'm always like waiting, like,
yeah.
So
that's like a whole other podcast. But I feel like I want to ask the question of how do you get, because I feel the same way. Like I'm hesitant to break through certain barriers because I just am waiting for something to happen.
Me too.
Like, so how do you break that? Because
I don't know.
I've had Coach John, the PT here at Next Level, also say to me, I think this might be mental now. You need to just I don't know.
It's like life. Like, how do you know you can cross the street and not get hit by a car? I mean, you don't know. You just gotta.
No,
that's pretty obvious.
Both ways,
no,
man.
oh my god,
right,
you guys know what I mean.
Carolyn just runs across the street
with her fingers
like
crossed, like please,
Frogger.
please. Woo,
My eyes
made it
closed.
past another one.
No, I'm serious. You don't know.
You're right, but I've definitely
you just gotta...
my training probably isn't as good as it could be because I'm worried about that. Like I don't want to push it, so like I don't do any work all that fast. Like 5K pace is about as fast as I'll run.
That I relearned that, run, walk, relearn that. But also the other thing that was for me huge was just like, I'm going to do it with friends. And
you've said that to me before.
So many times. And it's like when I do it by myself, I'm always like, it's going to happen. And I always feel like that's when it happens. But when I'm with friends, I'm just going along and doing whatever. And it's like, you just not even thinking about it. It's perfect.
So maybe it is mental.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I mean,
big part of it is.
Dr. John told me the same thing. He was like, "Listen, you might have to run. Like at this point, you're so like guarded with that pain. Like any little twinge, and your brain's like pain. When it's really not that big a deal, and like you can probably push through that. And so that's what we did when we started back. It was like set a limit of like, okay, if it's under a 4, you can go through that. That's fine. Not gonna.
And sometimes if you're so guarded, then you're like tense and you're not relaxed. You know,
you start paying more attention to that left foot.
Yep.
And you keep striking
and you're not running
like,
right.
oh, now it hurts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Boy.
Right.
Can't leave you alone.
Where are my friends? Where are my friends? They're so much faster. I can't get to them.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
There we go.
I mean,
Should I
back
look at
to
my
the
bullet
integrity
points?
of workouts.
Yeah. We have our notes.
Yeah. So I guess being able to hit that ceiling. So that kind of goes into that. Like, are you saying like being able to get to that max and keep going?
Yeah. I mean, how much? Like, when's the last time anybody like went to max and failed? Like, got to true failure? Like,
This
I know.
morning when I did my
I
ramp
have.
test,
I just stopped.
Did you do a
It
ramp
just-
test today?
Yeah. It just stopped spinning. It's just like,
Okay.
well,
Those workouts, what was that you gave me?
I don't remember.
20.
Oh, Silers?
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean? Last time that was
Yeah. Okay.
it was like this past week.
a few weeks
A
ago.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was hard. What was it? I forgot. But
4 by 8 minutes. At like
and
105 or 107.
you raised it extra the one day. That was the day.
Yeah, that was the day.
He tried to kill me.
Just the one time?
Yeah.
Wiping out the competition.
Yeah. And I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Was that the goal? Was she supposed to get to a point where she just couldn't do it?
Those
So
are
yes.
unbelievably hard workouts, you know. So they're like the goal with those is you get to 4 by 8 minutes at about 105% FTP with only 2 minutes rest.
And you're saying you don't start at 8 minutes,
No,
so you
we
start
start at,
incrementing
like
right?
6.
Yeah,
I think we
5
did
or
4
6,
by 6,
and then
with-
every week it goes more time.
right, 1 minute more interval, 1 minute less rest. So it's like
Okay. This is on the bike?
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah. So like they're very, very hard. And I've failed a handful of them. But like we were talking about it before the show, like every time you do a really hard workout or an FTP test or you know, a 5K or something like that, you finish and like 20 minutes later you're like,
Could
I have gone just a little bit
Yeah,
harder?
like, maybe-
Could I have
did I-
pushed it?
could
Could I
I-
have pushed it just that
Did
little
I need
bit?
to fail it? That one I definitely there was no question.
Yeah.
But yeah, there have been others where I'm like, I don't know, could I have pushed harder? You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's weird.
I think the ramp test is a good one to get to that. Like I remember my wife Claire, when she was riding a decent amount, we set her up with like a Trainer Road account, and she'd pick workouts out and stuff. And so that they use a ramp test as like their FTP guide. And she did a ramp test and got a number. And yeah, she asked me a question about it, and I'm like, well, let's do another ramp test. And I was there with her. So like you have somebody next to you, like coaching, not coaching you, but like cheering you on as you're going. She had like a 20 watt FTP boost.
Wow.
So it
With
was just
someone
like
there.
with someone there. She was like, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to go that hard, you know, like because I'm yelling and, you know, cheering her on, trying to get her to go just that little bit further. And she's like, oh, you really, like, you actually have to go to failure. Like, you know, and that's always, that's
Are
all
you
really,
going to say no?
No, you do. I think that's
Okay.
a great point, and I think you do get better that way. I do also think that with endurance work, you need to be in like the zone 1, zone 2 a lot.
right. But
that's
Volume
not-
is key.
I think what you're talking about is different.
Yeah, it's a different workout.
But I do think that there is a thing of failure with that also. Like, you know, if the top of your zone 2 is, 100 watts or 150 watts, like you go out and you need to ride to a point at that power where you know, after 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever it is, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's failure, even though you can still do, if you're trying to hold 100 watts and you can only now hold 100, or you're trying to hold 150 and you can only hold 100, that's failure.
It's failure.
If you actually pushed yourself and you fueled right and you did this and that, like that is failure. And that's a good thing to know. You learn a lot from those kind of, you know, failure's got a bad connotation to it, but you know, you found that max, you found that limit. And I do think you have to do that every so often. I don't think you need to do it often though.
Yeah.
How often do you
let me
think
ask
you
you
need to
then
do it?
this, right? So to that point of long endurance workouts, we do our tests. we do our tests for the runs, and we do a 5K.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often thought about, and I don't know the answer, of should that be like a 10K?
Oh God, no.
Well, I mean, your
Well,
70.3s are not
Right,
not
well,
5Ks.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's what I mean. That's like it's a different, right? So that's like I get the 5K
But your
test.
your 70.3 is not a 10K either.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if that's the
But
logic,
that's what I
then
mean. Like,
you would,
should there be a longer test?
you're not gonna run for that long.
I've
Like
talked
the numbers adjust, right? So the numbers go from, right, this is your 5K, so this is what's going to be your half marathon, or this is what's going to be your full. These are your times for it. This is how you should train. These are your zones, etc. But I think there is value in a longer test, just like when you do the swim test. Same thing. What's the swim test? It's 200, 400, or 400, 200, right?
Mhm.
But, you're swimming longer. So
Sure.
I argue maybe take the average of 5 200s. And let that be your test. And that's what you're trying to improve because you're doing longer endurance events.
Yeah.
So what's the answer to that question?
There's not one answer. There's value in both of those things. So if you're going to do a 5K test, I think the nice thing about the 5K test is it's repeatable. It's something you could do all year round, and you could chart progression over long periods of time, right? So there's value to that. What I'm going to kind of take the counterpoint to what you said, like, should that test be longer? I think you can very easily pull the information you're trying to glean from that longer test from your standard workouts, right? So the closer you get to, let's call it long endurance pace, the more I can figure out just by looking at your endurance runs, right? Like I can see where your heart rate's at the top of zone 2, and I can extrapolate from there to your half marathon pace. I can take it from the further point down to your half marathon, maybe more than I can even from your, those all are data points along a line, right? So the more data points you get along that line, the better. And so I don't know that you need to test at every single point. But
you could do a long run and see if your heart rate stays or if it starts to drift up.
So the validity
right?
of that answer would be, if let's say your 5K is X and you extrapolate those numbers, then you do a longer test. And if you extrapolate the 5K and it's the same from that longer test, then it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden your 5K time is extrapolated as slower because you did a 10K to test, then maybe there's value in doing longer tests.
Yeah. So, we'll get real geeky for a little bit. Everybody has what's called a power duration curve for all their sports, right? So that's charting, like, I'm going to use power, but it could be pace for running. It could be pace for swimming along your y-axis, and then duration along the x. So the further out you go, what happens to your speed?
That's good.
Everybody's power duration curve looks really similar in shape when you are from threshold and lower. Okay, where the big differences occur is what happens above threshold for most people. So let's call that from like your 20-minute effort to your sprint power. That could be very differently shaped for people based on physiology, where they're at in their training, their experience, all that stuff, right? But most people, once they're trained up, it's really a similar shape curve from that 20-minute point out to 6 hours.
Yeah, okay.
So we don't need tons of points out there. The more points we get closer, like on that anaerobic side of things, the more value is that we get from those things. But you do need points kind of along each of the things. So like where the software that I like to use looks at kind of sprint power. So everything from 0 to 20 seconds or so, and then 20 seconds to like 8 or 9 minutes. And then from there out to long distance. And as long as you have a good point, a max point in each of those areas, it can give a really good estimation of where you're at along the whole curve. So
even if you're a more predisposed to be like an anaerobic type of athlete.
Yeah, that'll show up. Think of it like it's almost like scales. If you have really high glycolytic power and you can put out tons at like sprint pace, then your FTP can't be as high. Just can't. And it's kind of the opposite. If you have really big FTP, and this way you're not going to have high sprint power. It's just the way that cellular respiration works. Can't do it. Can't have both.
I have both.
Can't. Sorry, hate to break it to you.
No, I've definitely changed for sure.
Yeah,
for over a long period
Is
of
it
time.
the same? Is it the same for bike and run, or can you have like one and one and
No,
or
it's
one? It's
the same. Yeah, it's kind of the way you process sugars in your cells. At a cellular level.
Yeah. Okay. So then talk about the difference between heart rate zones for bike and run, because they're not the same.
Yeah, but the differences probably are similar. So like top of zone 2 for me on the run is like 142, 143. Top of zone 2 on the bike is 137. They're about 5 beats different. Same thing at threshold. Like there's that same 5 beat difference at threshold for the bike and run.
I got to double check.
We're getting off topic.
We're getting way
I feel
off
like
topic.
I feel
I'm
like we
sorry.
talked about this already.
We did.
Yeah.
What were we talking about before I got all geeky? Sorry.
Before you got geeky?
Before we talk about
what
work-
year was that?
What year was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
FTP and
Yeah.
and your power.
And your tests
And
and
your
doing your
tests.
tests and stuff. Going to
Right.
max.
Do you need
our
to do
goal,
this?
our
Can you hit
original.
the ceiling?
Can you hit the ceiling?
Got
Good
it.
job, Yvonne. Yvonne was paying attention. 3 points to Gryffindor.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So going like, I don't know. That's a hard, I don't know if I've ever gone to a point where I'm like literally failure in an aerobic sport. It's like, it's one thing if you're bench pressing, right? Like the bar just doesn't move anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're on a bike or you're running, like there's always that
But you just said
mental
you
side.
have, because you can't keep the same wattage anymore.
I
But
know,
if you
but
have to
like-
go really far, if you're in the correct aerobic zone, right, you can go
Yeah.
really far. Like, have you ever gone that far?
Yeah. I don't know
Aerobically.
that I have.
I mean,
You
I
don't-
broke my foot running, but I don't think that was.
I don't think
Far.
that's,
That's not what we're talking about.
no.
That's far. I broke someone.
I mean, haven't done it, and I'm dreading doing it this year. But I would have some training runs where just go as fast as you can, and that was just like my max, and like it was literally my legs just were not going any faster. I haven't gone to a point of like, I think my whole thing, even at races and stuff, is just I'd never want to throw up. Like that's always.
That's a good thing for anybody.
Have you,
Yeah.
any of
I
you
feel
guys
like
made
I'm
your
there.
throw up? Made yourselves throw up in an endurance sport?
I've
Made
gotten-
myself.
Well, not made yourself, but like thrown up as a result of like, I've done it in the gym once and on the bike once.
I don't typically throw up, so I never would get to that.
I've finished 5Ks where I've been like this close to.
Yeah, I always
Yeah,
feel like I'm going to
same.
throw up, but I've
Like, really
Never
close.
actually thrown up.
But never actually. thrown
I
up,
get
no.
like to a point where at the end of it, like when we did the Run for Washington Township, like
Mhm.
I have to walk it off for a while. I can't just like stop because like my heart rate is super
Mhm.
high and just I'm feeling dizzy and everything like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I need like a minute to just like walk and bring everything down for a
Yeah, yeah.
second. So, but it's like just about there.
Yeah.
It's super
Mhm.
close.
I remember when I first I was much younger. My dad was big into weightlifting, and so he took me to the gym, and him and his buddy, and we did walking lunges. So we were out in the basketball court holding dumbbells, and we made we did our 3 sets, and I'm like, I just made it to the bathroom and
Oh my
threw
gosh.
up. But that might have even been an aerobic, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then I had it on the bike once where I just really, really hard, long, like 3-minute all out efforts. And I got through a couple of them and was like, nope. I don't know if that was something I ate, but it felt pretty much the same. Like you get to that point. But still, I think the shorter the effort is, the easier it is to go to max and
Yeah.
push yourself to
Yeah.
that ceiling. The longer it starts to hurt so much. You're like, nah, I don't really want to hurt this much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
You always know you have like another whatever hour to go. You're like,
yeah, I don't know if I could do this
Yeah.
for an hour. Right. And that's part of what we talked about 2 episodes ago with mental resilience. But that's part of going to max, right? Like every time you get a little bit better at that mental side of things And so are you getting fitter or are you just getting mentally tougher? I don't know the answer, but both of them make you
Hopefully
faster. Hopefully both, but
Yeah.
either of them make you faster. Right. So
Is that, would you say that is the intention though, to either, like, what is the purpose as a coach for you to get your athlete to that level? Like, what are you looking
I
to
think you should
gain?
very rarely go that far. I think that's because I think that takes a lot of mental effort out of you. I think you need to save that for race day. Every once in a while you get close or you go really hard, but like there shouldn't be too many days. If it happens weekly, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
You should be able to get through most of your workouts without having to go to that dark place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're not getting through them, then they're not the right ones for you.
Yeah. Yeah. What's next
As
on
you
our
do
list?
it longer and longer, you really dial into how you feel into each one of the
Yeah, which
times
I
you're doing.
think sometimes could be a dangerous thing because
Yeah.
like how much it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Like I know what VO2 max feels like and it's not fun. Like,
Nope.
so
That's why I hate tests.
I've said I
This
don't
isn't-
test well.
Interesting one for you guys.
but not you.
No.
Oh, no, because I do this all the time. When the integrity is an easy workout.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
I had to relearn that. It took a while.
Yeah, me too.
Easy means easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it's
now,
good
yeah.
to have easy.
Oh, so good. Especially when you have one of those really hard ones and then you're like, oh, tomorrow's easy.
Yeah.
What do you define as easy?
There are definitions like you're not hitting your VO2
Yeah,
max.
my heart rate is like nice
Your
and
HR
low
is in
and
zone 1 or 2.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
in zone 3 for less than 20% of the time.
Yep, everything he said.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
don't have anything to add to that. Just it should feel easy.
Mhm.
You should, be breathing through your nose if you needed to. You should be able to talk. You should feel good. Like
Like
feel
when
like
you're
Doesn't
done.
mean you're sitting on the couch because that's easy too. It just means you're putting in effort, but it's an easy effort.
I think you've said like you should feel better when you're done.
Mhm.
I always feel better when I'm done,
Yeah.
no matter what workout it is. I always feel
Not
better when
that
I'm done.
way. Like just energized almost from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's when you get to a point where you're like, you get like an easy 3 or an even easy 5 on your program, and you're like, oh, it's just 5 easy miles. And
Right.
you're just like, who am I?
Yeah.
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 Uh-huh.
But it is nice to get to that point because I think like it takes a long time to get to like I feel like I just got to it this year where I can go out and do like this past weekend we ran easy
A lot.
for
Yeah.
what an hour how long I think I ran for an hour 30
I did
with you.
210. You did over 2.
but like I ran
Same as you.
easy for an hour 30 and I felt great the next day. Like I didn't feel sore, I didn't feel beat up, like my heart rate was nice and low. It was always below that my 140 145 number and just I felt good. And like 2 years ago that would have destroyed me, even at that easy pace. So I think you do have to relearn what easy means. And there's lots of science out there and I'm not going to get all geeky again, but like it's amazing how easy can be and still get the adaptations that you're expecting to get from it. Right. So easy is supposed to be getting you, you're maxing out your heart's, how much you stretch your heart. So one of the big adaptations that come over long periods of time with endurance training is your heart gets literally bigger. The only way that happens is if you cause it to stretch, right? So it fills up with blood and that filling up with blood causes it to stretch a little bit and gets bigger. You only have to work at about 50% of VO2 max to get to maximum stretch of your heart. That's not really hard at all. Like for most average people, that's like a barely brisk walk. For us, it might be barely jogging, and that's getting you that adaptation. It's causing you to build more mitochondria. It's causing all those important adaptations for endurance stuff, but it really doesn't take very much effort. It does take time, but it doesn't take tons of hard.
It's their favorite word. It causes tissue resilience.
And when you do it right, you can do those long runs. And like you said, you're done. You ran all these miles, and you feel you're not destroyed for the rest of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is so nice. You're like,
Our
wow,
bike-
I just did all that, and I feel fine.
I mean, we ran. I mean, you guys ran further than I did on Saturday, and then we did a damn hard ride on Sunday.
Yeah.
I was going to say those are destroying me right now.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
you guys
but we
saying
were
that
able. We
hard
were able
workout
to do it.
This weekend is like, that's the one I'm
But
like,
we were-
it's going to be a hard
What,
one.
like-
this weekend?
This week.
Yeah, this weekend's
Yeah.
gonna be tough
Yeah.
because I
it's
got to
gonna
get
be hard.
back in time for Mother's Day
Oh,
stuff.
God.
So
Yeah.
You're coming, right? Don't leave me alone with him.
Okay. It's, yeah.
But yeah, you have to like the better you get and the more fit you get, the easier those kind of things become. But it does take a lot of
Yeah.
being able like, and that's I think that's probably most people's problem is going too hard most of the time. And we've talked about that so many times. It's like we're beating a dead horse.
I was
But-
always guilty of being like right at the top end of easy.
Yeah.
So I think I was never getting the adaptation because of that. And it wasn't until this year where I kind of like
I think
really
you were
slowed down.
You were getting the
yeah,
adaptation,
but not
at the expense of too much built up fatigue.
Mhm.
Right. So once you realize, oh, if I run 5 beats a minute less or 30 seconds per mile slower, I'm still getting the same thing.
Mhm.
But then tomorrow, what can I do?
Right.
And that's where it becomes
yeah.
valuable.
And it made such a big difference.
Yeah.
Right. Now you can, when you do that, you can string together strong days. And that's where the real improvement comes from.
Yeah.
Not much to add there. We just can't go hard all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about this even the last time that I was here about the intentions of training, where you have to just get away from that whole, exercise as like this weight loss kind
Mhm.
of thing where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
going hard and whatever. It's like, this is specific for performance,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it just totally changes everything. So,
If anyone saw what I ate after, they would know that I was not doing this for weight loss.
After what? The ride on Sunday?
Yeah, and
What'd you have?
after most, what did I have on Sunday? Oh, Sunday, I had 2 pieces of French toast, 3 eggs with broccoli. and-
broccoli. Where does broccoli fit
Where does
into
broccoli
in
fit
my
in?
scrambled eggs.
Oh, like an omelet.
yeah, like a scramble with broccoli. And I think I might have had smoothie also.
Stop it.
But even if
It
that,
wasn't
like berries and spinach.
I was expecting
because I
like
don't eat
Expecting ice cream cake.
no, because I
ice
don't eat.
cream,
I was
chocolate
like,
cake.
only 2 pieces.
No,
of French
because I
toast.
don't
Wow,
eat bad.
lightweight.
Well, I don't eat bad food, but I eat a lot of it. A lot of
Yeah.
good food.
But even with
But it's
that,
not.
like there is this.
I didn't
again,
do
we've
all the.
talked about it with
yeah.
our generation. There is this like switch that we have where it's like,
I didn't do all that work
Gotta
and then
go
come
hard.
home and be like, well, I can't eat now. Like,
Right.
no, like I
Yeah.
ate. Yeah.
No, I do the work so that I can eat now.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's-
Mm-hmm.
My kids are like, I'm hungry. I'm like, me first.
Adaptations. That was one of the topics to touch on. What are some of the adaptations that you're looking for?
Gosh, that's a loaded question.
Or
huh?
like
we
top
talked
3.
about
The heart. We
mean-
got the heart.
the heart, right? That's
Yeah.
We got the
adaptation.
Grinch heart.
You're looking to be able to do the endurance work for the race.
Mhm.
That's what you're
Your
adapting to.
resiliency. What is your
Tissue
favorite word?
resilience?
Tissue resilience.
It's a big one for me
It is.
Yeah.
because that's where the recovery comes in. Because you have to do the easy work so that your body can absorb
Mhm,
and recover,
mhm.
and so that you can go tomorrow. Oh, I can go
Yep.
more.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to break it down to, kind of nuts and bolts, adaptation is going to make you better at what you're trying to do. Right. So when it comes to pedaling a bike, running, swimming, or whatever, these are all aerobic sports. So it's all about oxygen delivery. You want to be able to bring more oxygen from your lungs to your cells. So that happens with creating more capillaries, the tiny blood vessels that actually like touch your muscle cells. That happens with lots of aerobic work. You want your heart to be more efficient, bigger, pumps more. That happens with easy aerobic work. And you want to be able to produce force. You want to be able to push, that strength, but you need to be able to push that strength for long periods of time. And that just comes from doing it for long periods of time. So like when you break it down to those easy things, like that's what and we talk about base and how your base season should look. That's what base season is about. It's trying to maximize those kind of like 3 big things, which is lots of easy work. And when you do that, you get those adaptations and suddenly you're this machine that can now be fine tuned. It's like we're building, like base builds that V10 engine, and then, you know, as you get closer to race day, you're tweaking it and fine tuning it. So, is that anybody else hearing like a
little?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not just.
I
my
thought it was
headphones.
out here, but
No, I think it's in our headphones. Hopefully, it's not on the file. We'll edit that out in post.
We'll just go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners are loving that.
The entire time.
what else was on there?
Well, we had the overcooking 24/7, which I think is what pretty much we had just talked about, unless we're actually talking about overcooking. Training for the race pain. So that's just kind of like the opposite, though, because you do want to get to a point where you can get past those hurdles, mental hurdles or physical hurdles that you might encounter during a race.
Yeah. I think it's important to do at least what your race is going to be, you know, whether that's time. I don't think it has to be distance. Like we talked about this weekend a little bit, but like this weekend we rode for, how long do we end up riding?
Almost
3 hours, right?
250.
And when you look at our TSS, they were right about 180. And guess what your TSS is supposed to be for a half Ironman bike ride? It's about 180, you know? So we hit, even though we didn't cover the same distance, it was about the same kind of effort. You know, our legs are now used to what that effort's going to feel like, you know? So that's kind of an important piece to feeling what that effort is. We're doing a decent amount of like race pace work,
I was just going to say.
Training at what you think you're going to be able to run at and bike at. So
running off the bike at race pace.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
But I think that's an important piece, is knowing what, and when we talked about, I guess that was the mental resilience episode, right? We talked a lot about it. One of the pervasive ideas was you just need to know what it's going to be like. Like the more you are ready to do what you're going to do, the better you're going to be at it. So running at, you know, putting that effort forward that you've done before in a race is going to be much easier than if you've never done it before. You know, if you haven't ridden 56 miles before, you need to ride 56 miles before race day. You know, if you haven't run 13.1, like it'd be great if you can get to 13.1 in training. So you just have that mental, like, yeah, I've done this. I can do it. I've made it through. It sucked for this much, but when I finished, I was okay. Like those are all important pieces to it.
Riding for that, your whatever effort you're supposed to do during the race, even if it's just 15 minutes, 10 minutes, or, you know, split into different reps, it just helps you know how you're going to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's not a surprise on the day of. You're like, damn, it's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I've made that mistake before too, of not doing it in training and then expecting somehow for me to, like, you know, go into a phone booth and turn into Superman on race day. And like, that just doesn't happen, right? Like I talk myself into, well, the numbers say I should probably be able to do this. And then I start pushing it and I'm like, the hell do you think you are?
You got to do it long enough to actually feel it. And like, so that it becomes hard for a little bit. So just doing it for a minute or two is not enough. You need to do it a little longer so you like really can feel like,
yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
That's
definitely have those like simulations of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even if I'm in the pool and my goggles do get filled with water, it's like, I just, not every time, but sometimes I'm like, all right, well, what if this happens? What am I going to do? Like,
well, what you do in a race is you turn on your back and fix it.
Well, that's the thing, but that's what you got to try to do when you're there. It's like, there's some times where I'll like stop and I'll like shake it out and readjust myself in like this very nice and pretty way.
Not in a race.
Yeah. And then there's times where I'm like, all right, well, let's pretend it's race day and what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to handle this? Same thing with running. It's like, all right, well, what's your game plan? If this happens, you get a cramp, like, can we run through this? Can we not? Just all these different things. Now, I was going to ask, with your races coming up, the other thing is to do like those like little mock tries, right? Like with maybe either a shorter distance or something. I think you're doing
next weekend.
Yeah,
race day next
weekend.
Actually, by the time this episode comes out, we'll probably be at Independence racing, when this episode
Wow.
comes out.
Congratulations, guys. Well done. Well done. Great effort.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's nice to
Yeah.
have race day coming.
I don't know why this year just feels so like weird. Like just the timing. It's like already.
Because it's been cold for so long.
I know.
Not
Yeah.
anymore.
Rough.
Today's
I was
nice.
not expecting it. I mean, I was expecting it to be cold. I wasn't expecting it to be freezing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, when I woke up for the ride this weekend and saw like 48
God.
on my weather app, I'm like,
I
what?
have never been so cold in my entire life on a bike. My teeth were chattering.
Yes.
It's always making fun of me, but I was freezing and I had like 3 layers.
He's like, I'm
You
so
had
cold.
to be sweating by the end of it, though, dripping. Because I went out, I had knee warmers and arm warmers on.
Yeah.
And I took arm warmers off, and I probably could have taken my knee warmers off.
Yeah,
I could have been in shorts and a jersey by the end of the ride.
Yeah.
I just had the shorts, but I had like
5 layers under. At one point, he's like, I'm so cold. I'm like, excuse me,
Yeah.
I have nothing under this jersey.
I was, yeah.
It's like Dumb and Dumber. He's like,
Oh my
That's what I
want this
thought of
jacket. I've
all
been
the
wearing this
I know.
my whole time.
I know.
My
I
hands
don't
are
even know what I
sweating.
was thinking. I was like, huh.
I
It was
brought the jacket last
70
minute.
yesterday.
Yeah, the smallest one with like the least amount of clothing. Just
Arm warmers is all I had. Dying.
yeah, it's been tough. But so like, let's like look into the future. How do you think you guys are? Like, where do you think you'll be?
When?
Like after the race is done. So this is going to be.
We'll be in Norristown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we'll be really far from
Lake
here.
Nakamixon.
Really far from here. I'm really tired because we're waking up at like, I don't know. We have to leave at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's an
Mhm.
early wake
We
up
didn't
that
think
day.
it through, really.
Are you all doing it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the 3 of us. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and Koichi.
Koichi, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So will that be like your first
Yeah, it's the first one this year.
season?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is where, like, for me, it's an experiment, and to see where, like, the experiment transition, not experiment to like try new things, but to see where I need to iron things out for transition or for swim or for the
Mhm.
run, like push, or, you know, do I have the right feel for the bike? Do I know how I'm doing? Do I have the right kind of attitude for the run? Do I know how it's going?
I've been kind of thinking through my race plan. I'm gonna push hard on the bike because I want to kind of build some fatigue and then see how I run with that fatigue. And the goal is, so it's an Olympic distance. So I'm going to do it's a 2-loop run course. I'm going to do the first loop at my goal half Ironman pace to kind of see like what that looks like heart rate wise and stuff coming off of a bike. Like it's only an hour long, hour and 5 minute bike. But then like running off of it. And then the second lap, I'm going to see what I have left in the tank and see if I can go a little bit faster.
Not gonna
But
split.
that's the game plan. We'll see what happens when, race day shows up, but that's where I'm at. My head's at right now.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Are you okay with making modifications if that doesn't go?
Oh, 100%. I have no like big goals going in. This race I'm going to go into it pretty fatigued and tired. This week is going to hopefully be a big week volume wise for me. Next week should be about the same. So I'm going to go in tired. I'll rest a day. Like it's on a Sunday. I'm going to probably go real easy on Saturday, but that's really the only concession I'm going to give it. And then with the plan of going 2 more hard weeks into Eagleman before I rest for Eagleman. So yeah, I don't have any big goals time wise or place wise or anything like that. It's more just like see how my body feels and put in a good hard effort on the bike, get some numbers from that, and then see how I run off the bike. So we'll see.
Now, James and Koichi were like walking the last track that we did.
James and Koichi are on a rest week this week.
Yeah, so
They
is
have
this
an
part?
easy
So I
week.
want to know, like, is this part of your game plan of like
Like how to beat them, make them walk all the time.
Because you're like really going into it like hard. So
But I'm going into this more as like a test.
Yeah.
James isn't racing, so James is
coming.
coming off a rest week. James has a beautiful 4-week block into Eagleman. Like it's perfect timing for him. Koichi's going to probably be a similar kind of thing to me. He's going to put in a solid week going into it, be a little bit tired, and then two big weeks coming off of it. So yeah, it's more just a rust buster kind of thing. Feel things out, make sure the bike fits.
Yeah.
You feel good. You don't get any kind of chafing or anything like that. I mean, those are what? No?
I didn't think about that before. I think that is pretty much fine. I don't know why it would be a big.
Because I mean, like we
Big
rode
for
for
that.
3 hours on the try bikes this weekend, but like you weren't in the bars the whole time. Like I'm going to realistically at this course probably be in the bars the whole time. Like you're sitting on, the front of your saddle. Like it's different than,
Fair.
group ride. So. Yeah.
Well, you, Marilyn, what's your game plan?
Unless I'm told otherwise, I think I'm all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be like an A race for you?
No, it's not an A race.
Not an A race, but just I'm going as hard as I can, probably for all of it.
Yeah. I think that's
Okay.
probably.
I just got the okay. That's what I'm doing.
You heard it first.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm just
we'll see
curious,
how it
like, I don't
goes.
think I'm gonna go as hard as I can on the swim just because of the coldness.
I mean,
I'll
yeah.
go hard. Like I won't.
Why not create heat? Like fucking
I won't.
go for it.
Yeah, but I feel like you can create heat at a certain temperature, and I don't know if the water temperature. Like maybe it will be that I can create like enough warmth, but it's gonna be.
But why would the
I've got an
cold
easy
make you
way.
go not?
Yeah, I think
Hard.
you
It
just.
doesn't feel
I'm gonna
good.
swim. I feel like I'm gonna swim so fast just because
You
I
just
want to
get
get
out
out
of
of the
there?
water. Yeah, I
Yeah,
want to be
it's
done.
too-
with it.
on water, like right
It's
on
two
water.
loops
Yeah.
too, so we have to run
Is
out.
it too? Oh, I
I
didn't.
believe so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
boy.
Because they have a
Run out.
sprint.
So you
And
run
get
out
back in.
and then get
So
back
you
in.
get that shock
What?
twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard of such a
Oh, no?
thing.
Yeah.
Lap the Lake was
No.
like that.
Yeah, Lap Lake. I had to get out
It's like
3
4
times. Yeah,
Right.
So you do the one, you come out, and you get back in.
it's
go again.
It's like a 750 meter loop, and you
Oh,
do
good.
it twice.
But you come out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
To get back in.
To get-
I just had a weird visual image. I'm gonna come out. My feet are gonna be so cold. I'm gonna be like, I don't know how to walk. I'm gonna stumble back into
Stumble.
the water.
But why can't you just stay in the water? Like, what is the
Because
purpose
the
of that?
exit is not
I don't
like
know.
you just. I don't know. That's the way it is.
Oh, because you have to like loop around,
guess,
get out, run
yeah.
around,
It'll
get
be
back
fun.
in. Oh, that
I think
sounds
just
terrible.
like
Thanks.
tonight, it's just gonna be a good hang. We're just gonna hang. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Yep.
With no toes.
We're carpooling, so it's gonna be a fun ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you staying there or is it just like a day
No,
thing?
that's
Out and
Is it
about.
an
No.
hour away? Somewhere?
hour. It's an hour and like 40.
Yeah,
Hour 40
Ish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad.
it's not too bad.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we got. I think these are
It keeps going away.
finding answers when you're struggling.
Yeah.
What answers are we
that's a
looking
good
for?
one.
Whatever answers you need to stop struggling.
Jesus?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's not going to help you.
Finding answers when you're struggling. Yeah, wow. I don't
It's a
know.
loaded question.
That is a loaded question. I'm not a religious person, so
Neither am I,
can't
but-
give you
Yeah.
an answer on that.
Okay.
It's kind of deep.
I
Yeah.
think when you first start out and you're consistent, you're building consistency, you're not going to have a lot of like questions.
Answers.
You're not
You're
gonna
not going to have a lot of
questions.
answers either.
Seriously?
You're going to have a lot of improvements. You're going to see like you're going to see
Maybe is that the answer? Does Siri have the answer for us?
like when you first start out doing something, you see results right away. You see
Yeah, but-
kind of like things
Oh,
coming up.
seriously, you don't think
You're gonna
beginners
have
have
so
more
many
questions
questions.
than
Are you? It's been a long time since you were a beginner.
Yeah.
I
But I
think
feel like I
beginners
saw
have
a
all
result.
the
So
questions.
many questions and no answers.
Biggest
the opposite of what you
question,
just
But
said.
Yeah.
Why?
Why am I doing
Why?
this?
What happened?
Yeah, how
For
did I
every
get
workout?
roped
Who
into
hurt
this?
me?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Think of some of the questions we've gotten at the beginning of group rides or whatever.
Yeah.
There's questions
Like
about
why do I
everything.
need to shift?
But you're also
Yeah.
going to
Like,
see results like really fast.
How do I
Sure.
yeah.
There's
It's
so
not
many
I don't think the
questions.
question's about results. It's about the questions and
Yeah,
But
like
this
the
is
answers.
when you're struggling.
yeah,
So-
even more
Right.
so because
So-
you've never struggled like this before, so
Right.
you don't
Like,
know how to.
am I supposed to feel like this?
Yeah.
Like, is this normal? And then, but I mean, those questions are pervasive and last forever, right? Like, you never,
Mhm.
do you ever get rid of those? I don't know. I have a little.
So when we finished the ride on Sunday, one of the members of our team, I was talking to her, and she was like, because a couple of us ran after the ride, and she mentioned I was running, and I kept thinking, how am I going to do this for 13 miles? And that's a question, doesn't everybody ask themselves that? How am I going to ride like this
Yeah.
for, so again, that's an example.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Mm-hmm. And you just do it.
Marilyn's got
was,
the answer.
That was my answer.
Just shut up.
Everyone
and do it.
has
You-
the same question,
it,
and you
right?
just do it. But
I-
yeah,
No, I think that's. I think I've always had that. Like, these questions like why, like when you're injured, like what do I have to do to get better? Why am I not getting better? Like all those things creep into your head and give you, James says it, like negative self-talk. Like you have this all, like that's definitely something you have to deal with. And I think just the longer you do it, and it comes down to experience, like you learn how to deal with those things. I don't know if there's an answer to, there's not one answer other than Marilyn's, just do it, suck it up and deal with it. Yeah. But like, that's hard to talk yourself into sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wouldn't, like, is there outside of the race, outside of everything else, like some place you come back to when you're of sound mind, like this is my why?
Well, I was just going to say, I think your why helps you in situations like that, where when you are struggling, it comes down to your why. So, yeah.
Is that what generally gets you through those tough times? Your why?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I don't know if I've actually found my why yet.
Why you do this?
Yeah.
If someone asked you today, if they're like, why do you do this? What would your answer be?
Other than it brings me enjoyment?
Yeah, but that could be your why.
It could be. But I also think that there's a lot of things that bring me enjoyment. And so that makes it easy to like be like, I don't want to do it today. Right? Like, because like a bowl of ice cream right now would bring me enjoyment.
Not the same kind of enjoyment though.
So
do you ever eat
seriously?
Do you ever sit and eat a bowl of ice cream and you're like, why am I doing this?
Yes.
Never.
Yeah, last night.
Really?
Last night I fell asleep like
you woke up. Right.
That's how big this is, right?
I have to hear this story.
I fell asleep unbelievably quick. Like I was reading a book, 9:00, lights. Like I fall. So like my wife gets mad at me for this, but I fall asleep with the book on my face. Like I
oh my God.
fall asleep while reading. I woke up and I was like, I thought I had been asleep for 3 hours. And I look at my watch. It was like 15 minutes. And then I couldn't fall back asleep. And I'm like, I don't know. Like the only thing that puts me to sleep
is a bowl of ice cream.
is watching TV. And so I went downstairs, I turned on the TV, and I was like, I'm going to have some ice cream while I'm done. Yeah. So I had not a bowl, a cup. That keeps me in portion control. But I had a little bit of ice cream, fell asleep. I was watching, I forget what, I was watching the PTO race in Ibiza.
Oh, yeah, I watched it. I watched it during my bike ride.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Wavy, choppy, ocean.
Yeah.
Damn.
So did you answer your why?
I feel like a fraud for not having a good why. But
no, but enjoyment is why can't enjoyment be your why?
Yeah, but it's okay. It is, but it's not like a deep like.
It doesn't have to be.
I guess not.
No rules.
No. Okay.
Yvonne.
I didn't say there was rules.
No, I said, what's your why?
Oh, what's my why? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just know that I feel better when I'm doing it.
Well, that's your why.
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, because I'm always fascinated by when I'm doing things, even when I'm pushing myself. I mean, I have a coach and I know that, he's hopefully looking at what I'm doing and things like that. But
I'm sure he is.
That aside, it's like no one put a gun to my head to make this effort.
Yeah.
But then there's just something that makes me feel good of like pushing myself because nobody else is doing it. Nobody, I don't need anybody to, I mean, it's great when I do a group ride or, we have friends running alongside each other and things like that. But at the end of the day, like if I have to do it, I get up like this morning. I was up 4:00 in the morning on my bike. Nobody told me I had to do it. I sought out a coach. I sought out a plan. I sought out a race. I'm doing it. And when I do it, I feel better. Last week when I was sidelined for, 2 days, that's how I knew I was better because I was like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm always like, all right, am I good enough to go? And I had to make that decision, the next day that I wasn't good. And the next day I'm like, all right, let's give it a try. And then I was back on it. And as much as you're like, to wake up at this time in the morning and get it done. But at the same time, it was like so exciting to get back on it.
Yeah.
So when I'm not doing it, I don't feel well. So I guess that is my why, but I don't know why.
Why it's your
why
why.
is my why. But that's way
Well, we're
too
not
deep
ready
of a
for that
conversation.
question yet.
Yeah.
What's your why? Not why is it your why? Yeah.
I'm in the wrong room for that question.
None of us have degrees in
Yeah.
psychology.
Did you answer, Marilyn?
I didn't. Same. That's why I'm telling you guys, like, there's no wrong. Same. It brings me enjoyment. Yeah, I love it.
What
I
is
love.
it that
I love
brings
the
you
competition.
enjoyment?
Like,
The
I love.
You've said that about
Yeah.
a bunch of times. Like,
And
that's for
what
you.
I
You need to-
love.
you
Like,
to-
race day is like,
Yeah.
that's what I love. The first time, so I started running, and my first race was Ridgewood 5K, like the one that's coming up Memorial Day.
It's a big one.
Yeah. And I mean, I was not fast by anyone's standards. And I remember at the end of the race, I saw they had a podium, and I was like, oh, this is like what I want to do. Like, I want to get to that. And that's it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like the competitive side so much, but more of like the doing it, like the actually being able to do it, being able to like exert myself and to push myself. For me, I don't necessarily need the podium finish,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like where I was as a kid, like not being active in that way, and running, swimming, biking, like being into it as an adult, it's like every day that I can do it, I feel like is a gift.
For sure, yeah.
And I just love being active we're getting older every day, and I just feel like any time that we're able to move and use our bodies, it's just like really a gift.
Yeah. And that's it. It's not even just, I mean, yeah, I love like the whole podium, like that was definitely a draw to me, but also like, okay, today I ran, this race and I got this, can I do better? Like, can I get faster? Like that drives me.
And the fact that you can, like, that there's always that room for improvement. You're like, I can do a little bit better. Like, I can push myself a little bit more. So like that opportunity also gives you that like drive to be like, maybe I can push myself, push a little bit further, a little bit further. It's exciting to see like how far you can go.
Right.
What about you? What's your why? You're trying to skate the question.
My why, like all of yours, but it changes. Sometimes it's just because I like hanging out with everybody here and doing stuff with friends. A big part of it is because I like the challenge of a lot of like this. There's so much that goes into try it. I mean, it is 3 sports. It's all in one. And then there's just so many aspects to learn. And I like that part of it, that the geeky part of learning and figuring out. And sometimes it's just a healthy lifestyle. And sometimes just like there's just so much experimenting you can do in the 3 sports on yourself. So it changes from time to time. Sometimes it's more what Marilyn's saying, to like, what's the big hairy goal can I get on the podium? And I would have to say that it changes over time. So I constantly ask myself the question, and I constantly get different answers.
When that alarm goes off, you're like, why am I doing this?
Today?
Sometimes it's when I'm eating a bowl of ice cream, like, this is why I'm doing it.
Fair point. Fair point.
It's different.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Your why depends on how far you take, your workouts and everything, and how much you want to put into it.
Yeah.
Because if you're just doing it for fun, because it's something you do on the weekend, then it might be different than like what I put into it.
Yeah.
After so many years, I'm still learning so much, and there's so much changing. I'm like literally learning all the time about like the different things.
That's a big part of now that you mentioned it, like I am a geek at heart. Like I'm a dork. I'll admit that. Like I embrace my inner geek, and like the more that I can learn about anything, like that's kind of my MO is like different things I get into, like I dive into them. And that's just part of the way I must be wired, so.
Yeah, that was a big thing, right? And sometimes my why is just because my wife says, no, you need to go work out today. That's my why. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go now.
Yeah, that's what's, I think we touched upon this before previously, where it's like the range, like the gamut of possibilities in between. You
Yeah.
can just participate, or you can really set
Mhm.
yourself some big goals. And you can do anything in between.
Yeah.
It's really,
And there's no right or wrong. It's whatever works
Right.
for you.
And I think this sport, more than any other one I've been involved with, like it embraces that entirety. Like I don't know, maybe you get it in running a little bit, but I don't think there's the same community around running
no,
where
it's not,
like,
I don't think.
you know, because these are bigger kind of events, you know, anybody who shows up at a triathlon like is getting cheered on,
Mhm.
whether they're the first person across the line or the last person, they're getting cheered on. It's an accomplishment for them as an individual. And they're finding something out about themselves during that race. And I think that's value. It doesn't matter what like you guys said, what your why is, but you have it, and that's allowing you to take part in that race. And this community is just phenomenal with that. Like I think everybody embraces that. You see this at like the World Championships at Kona. The pros come back at midnight to like cheer across the last finishers. Like that doesn't happen at the New York City Marathon. That doesn't happen at the Ridgewood 5K. That doesn't happen at anything like it's a unique sport, you know. And maybe that's part of my why. Like I just have fallen in love with that aspect of the sport, you know.
Yeah, it's like it feels like it's always a win. Like
Right.
it's really
you
may not
finish, you
perform
won.
the best that you wanted to, or maybe you think immediately like, oh, you know what, I can push it more and I can work towards a bigger goal. But at the end of the day, finishing it, you're just so accomplished. And there's not many sports that are like that. It's like winner or loser, and it's really an uplifting community.
Yeah.
And supportive. And I've had people that are
really
like
supportive,
really, accomplished in this sport. And I'll, say, oh, I'm trying here or whatever. and they'll say, no, man, like this is big. And I think Rich and I were talking about it during one of our runs, where it's like, when you look at the times, like obviously there's such impressive times with running, biking, swimming, everything like that. But at the end of the day, when you look at like your swim, like, I mean, if I swim like a 2-minute, whatever, the 200 or something like that, and you have someone that swims a 1 minute, it's like you're talking about a difference of a minute. Like you're still in there, you're still in it. Like you can see how fast and you can admire it, but at the same time, you're talking about like minutes in between. So if you finish, 30 minutes before me, it's like you're still in there.
Yeah.
So it can be maddening sometimes because you're like, oh man, like if I could just be a little bit faster. But at the same time, you're like, but at the same time, we're talking about like minutes.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Right. So I think that's a great spot to stop. I mean, we all just shared our whys, or tried to.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody. Yvonne, thank you again for stepping in for James.
Thanks for letting me come.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. I feel like every once in a while you guys need to like you're either like poisoning James slowly
just to bring you back on.
Just to like give him
that's why Greg was like, I think you need to stay home tonight.
I said that before he said, I'm going to see if Yvonne can do it. But anyway, thanks guys for a great episode. Thank you all for listening. Let us know in the comments how you feel about oysters now that you've heard the second side to the story. We asked at the end of the last episode, we asked everybody to reply and say, like, what do you think about oysters? Has your thought about oysters changed at all? And thanks everybody for listening. It's another
feel better, James.
Yeah, hope James you feel better. And
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms
Mother's
out
Day,
there.
and best of luck to all of you competing next week.
Thank you.
Or when this comes out this week. Competing now. Right now.
Right this moment.
Right now. All right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. That's another episode of the Quad Pod. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Next Level Quad Pod. We really appreciate you spending time with us and listening to everything that we have to offer. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review and a rating. Those little things go a long way towards us being able to bring you more content like this. If you'd like to learn more about what we have to offer, please go to our website at goteamnltry.com. There, you can find out about all the different things we provide that can help you reach your athletic potential. Thank you again for finding time in your busy schedule to spend some time with the Quad Pod.